Blog Talk Radio.
All Pro Media Group Radio showcases professionals on a daily basis. Be inspired and listen to experts from around the globe share their accomplishments with you. APMG Radio, success at its finest.
You're listening to APMG Radio. I'm Lucy, and I'm pleased to introduce Henry Halliday to the show. Henry, thank you for joining us today.
It's certainly my pleasure, Lucy.
It's always great having you on the show, and I know that this is our last show that we're going to be doing together throughout this series. And through this series, we've spoken a lot about technology. So in our last session, I'd like to talk more about technology in science. So let's start the show off. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, this is a exciting area in general, so I'll just sort of highlight by talking about some particular topics that are of interest to me and others. To lead off, let's talk a little bit about space exploration. This has been an exciting branch of science ever since man could get off the ground. And particularly lately, asteroid mining has come into the headlines with respect to now that we think we can hit targets like the moon and Mars and beyond. Now we want to take on something more ambitious and perhaps something more with a commercial output to it, if in fact we could find valuable minerals and materials on asteroids. The real challenge now is that, we can hit planets, but asteroids now are moving at thousands of miles an hour, and we have to figure out how to do that and yet not be destructive. We've done it in terms of setting off explosions. Now what we need to do is get serious about it to see whether or not we could land on them. If we could land on them, whether we could mine anything. And then, two, if we mine something, how do we get it back to Earth? So this is a challenge that we're going to see a lot of interest as it goes along. It also presents a challenge that a lot of these are very distant from the Earth, and thus we have to build more intelligence into our vehicles so that they can do more on their own, since we may not have much time to do for the communication lag. This leads us to the next topic of Mars. Mars is an interesting planet that we've now done a lot of robotic exploration of, and are beginning to talk about human beings making that trip. Part of that, though, is the fact that it's a costly venture. There's a lot of risk and a lot of high technology that has to be proven to be successful. The real challenge there, again, are the distance. It takes minutes for any commands or information to get back and forth. There was an interesting presentation done in the National Geographic Channel on all of the issues that have to do with Mars exploration. We certainly got issues that have to do with radiation from particularly solar flares. We here on the Earth are subject to these, but the atmosphere our ionosphere does us a lot of help in protecting us. But on space and on Mars, there's just not that protection anymore. And it can happen without really a lot of warning. So these things we have to take into effect. In addition, as a result of some of our exploration so far, we've seen that the reduced gravity has a severe impact on human anatomy, and particularly the brain and bone challenges and blood issues that have to be addressed in a way that provides human beings a way of surviving long terms in space. And we still don't have good answers to that. Part of the technology, though, is incorporating now the areas of 3D printing, which allows raw materials to be turned into useful objects, and you don't need a factory floor to do that. So we're going to see more of that come into play as we continue our space exploration. And, of course, commercial exploration of space has become a proven item now. We're trying to prove that we just don't need the government to do it, and the private sector has use a lot of the technology background that has been established in our space exploration and launch vehicles and so forth, and it's now proving practical, and the technology is proving itself as a very valuable asset in making this come to pass. With respect to other things closer to the Earth, geology has made some progress in earthquake monitoring and warnings, but we still don't have a good model to predict when it's going to happen. Especially noted the other day, and they had a earthquake in the middle of the United States. They don't understand how that can happen. They understand where plates slide, that can cause earthquakes, but not where there aren't any plates, supposedly. So we still have a lot of understanding of our own Earth to worry about. We need to use technology now that a lot of sensors and remote sensing is possible to help us give us better models of the Earth. Mars has an aspect of geology with help us understanding how the Earth evolved in the universe. So geology has a significant role to play in our space exploration, and jointly certainly with respect to comets in terms of telling us where some of our materials come from. And so again, history. We need to understand our history of our world through the understanding of what's around us. Weather in technology now has proven that the use of satellites, sensors in the ocean and land, and better computer models are helping us to give us some advanced warning, but it's still not good enough to be able to give us a lot of the accuracy that we need, and certainly there's nothing yet that helps us control what the weather is. As they say, we talk a lot about the weather, but nobody seems to do anything about it. There have been some attempts to control weather through use of different seeding techniques where they put minerals in the air to precipitate rain, but we have to always be careful of what we're doing in the environment if we try to do that. So there's a lot of work going on, but no definite path to a solution. We'll just have to keep our ears to the ground to understand if we're getting close. Biology, there's been a lot of interest in biology with respect to the mapping of the human structure. Our genes, what do they look like? What makes up our structure? And can we do anything with respect to helping the human existence by either, once we know what the various structures are, can we look for defects, and can those defects be corrected? That's what's known as bioengineering. We have made significant progress in using 3D printing to print templates of structures that human material then can go around to create replacement for those who are injured or have suffered particularly wounds in the war. But all of the detriments of battle have proved incremental aid in helping those who have defects either as a result of birth or some other genetic deformation. But in many cases, they're now looking at, can we do gene replacement right in the body, and whether or not this creates a condition where we are starting to morph the human being in a way that we think is better is a question that's going to be debated for a long time. How far can we go to make changes and yet have it consistent with what we believe our philosophy and what the human race is meant to be? The big question is, when have we gone too far? This is something that we're going to have to watch as we go along and participate in the discussions that take place in our legislatures and our religions and in science. Physics is another area of science that there's been a lot of advancement in technology. I think the major one has been the Hadron Collider in Europe, where they're using high-energy physics to better understand our structure, the origin of the universe, and see what holds us all together, not from a body standpoint, but molecular structure. They now have made some significant advances in the fundamental glue that holds the universe together. And we're trying to better understand, can some of these theories that have been proposed be demonstrated? And the high-energy physics area is something where they hope to get this kind of answer. Along this line, we have long known that magnets have a north and a south pole, and if we break a magnet in two, we have pairs of north-south poles. But they believe that part of our understanding of the physics of nature is that there can exist what's known as a magnetic monopole, only a north or a south. And it seems that this can be demonstrated getting close to the absolute zero, but they're still waiting for more conclusive evidence of this. And you're going to say, well, who cares? Well, it could help us in developing new materials, new technologies, and ways of better understanding what makes up the universe. Part of the universe contains what's called dark matter. This dark matter is a result of a star collapsing and thus absorbing all the normal materials that are surrounding it. And there's been a lot of discussion over whether or not the collider in Europe is capable of producing that, not intentionally, but accidentally. And if that happens, everything gets absorbed into it, and where do we go? Well, this hopefully we can get an answer without having this catastrophe. If our universe collapsed, where would we be? Well, we wouldn't exist at that point. But these are a lot of exciting areas that are taking place. Hopefully we can pursue these adventures without getting any catastrophic detrimental effect to them. So it's worthwhile just keeping your eyes open to what's taking place and seeing how some of these things can help us in our existence, and some we got to be careful of.
Excellent. Well, let's take a break now, and when we come back, I know we're going to continue on with this discussion of technology and things that we've spoken about on last shows. I'm Lucy, and my guest today is Henry Halliday. We'll be back straight after the commercial break.
Hey, Kate, how's things with the new business?
Oh, hey, John. Thanks for asking. It's going really well. Hang on a minute. I just got to retweet something a new client just said.
You know, I just don't understand how you have so many followers, not to mention the likes on your Facebook page.
And I can't even get over the hits on my website, too. You know, everything's going great, but I'll tell you something, John. I'm not doing it alone. You want to know the answer?
Of course I do. I want a successful business like yours.
Allpro Media Group.
Huh?
It's a full-service marketing and PR company that assists businesses of all sizes. Basically, what they do is transform your business into a brand through their marketing and network connections. John, imagine having a personal campaign designed just for you and then being able to reach hundreds of thousands of potential clients and business professionals worldwide. Just go to allpromediagroup.com for more information, and you could be reaching the next level of success too.
Kate, you're the best.
No, I'm not. Allpro Media Group is.
Where can you buy unique and beautiful gifts that will be remembered forever? Or can you buy the friend who has everything? Well, it's simple, and it's only a click away. Just go to rageandeden.co.uk for a selection of worldwide Gothic and fantasy art from world-leading artists. Choose from the exquisite figurines, chic jewelry, amazing prints, or even one of the trendy t-shirts that are bound to make a statement wherever you go, even if it is just to the local supermarket. Visit rageandeden.co.uk. Every garden has a corner in the shade.
855-451-MOVE.com. Their name is their number, 855-451-MOVE. They are a full-service local and long-distance moving company based out of Suffolk County, New York. Their number is their name. They hold an A+ with the BBB and have been open for over 5 years. Their website is www.855-451-MOVE.gov.
You're listening to APMG Radio with my special guest, Henry Halliday. So, Henry, this is our last show together. Tell us, and if possible, can you summarize the topics that we've discussed throughout this series?
Certainly. I was hoping we'd be able to do that. We covered a large area in these 6 episodes, and what we looked at is first personal technology, those things which are within our homes or outside the homes that we're more personally involved with. And I included 4 personal examples to try and illustrate my involvement in some of the technologies directly. This included a discussion of energy in the home, particularly solar, and my installation of had an installation of solar power and what was involved. We talked a little bit about credit with respect to privacy and convenience versus security, the usual aspects of cash versus credit, and the involvement of smart cards. We then talked a little bit more about our shopping experience, both physical and internet. What are the aspects that we have taken advantage of or can take advantage of, and again, the risks and protections that we need to worry about. With respect to home security, I talked about my experience with a video surveillance system, and with respect to home maintenance, use of wireless communication, and my experience with respect to monitoring what's happening with the home and controlling through lights, sensors with respect to door activities and other things we have to be watching, and with respect to very valuable assets like smoke and CO monitoring. Outside the home, we talked a little bit about what's influencing our travel, whether it's cars, planes, or trains, and with respect to some of the technology advances that have helped make these a more safe experience and rewarding in terms of giving us car guidance and protections. We talked a little bit about recreation, safety outside the home in terms of being able to protect ourselves, but also monitor what's happening inside the home when we're not right there. And a little bit about learning. What are our learning opportunities? We can take advantage of certainly a physical one-on-one learning experience, but a lot more now is taking place using remote access, where a learning experience can be both visual and audio and help us in the total process. We then moved on to medical technology. We talked a lot about the diagnostic tools and also with respect to importance of exercise and knowing what your physical makeup is as we go along. In particular, I talked about the body measurement techniques that I've been involved with and what my experience has been. Technology has given us a lot of valuable surgical tools with respect to some of the robotics, some of the built-in display capability that doctors can utilize either remotely or through something like even involved in the glasses where they can see X-rays and the like at the same time they're performing surgery to try and help them perform better. Communication has become important from part of that medical technology, being able to do remote diagnostics. Medicines are continuing to evolve, and we get more focused on where these medicines might be applied rather than just broad-spectrum medicine to try and attack everything. They become very important in those things that various viruses and biological adaptation to medicines has made some very difficult to try and help humans get by. Brain mapping has been an important aspect of medicine And we're going to see a lot more of that taking place as we better understand what the brain can do and where the action is taking place, and can we help people that have brain damage. Artificial organs and appendages. We talked a little bit about the importance of the use of 3D printing to try and help adapt structures that are tailored to the individual rather than just a bulk process that applies to everyone. We then moved on to materials technology with respect to the new materials that are coming on board as a result of being able to manipulate things at the atomic level. These are going to be important for materials that are either coatings or actually materials themselves, being able to manipulate down to the very atoms that make up materials and be able to posture them to be able to help us in creating structures that are better attuned to where their applications are, whether it's in clothing or building structures or anything in between. And again, whereas 3D printing has come into play, not only to be able to build plastic bases or circuits on flexible materials, but also using lasers together with the 3D printing techniques to actually build very strong structures that are direct applications in our space technology. We talked a little bit about business technology in the broad sense in terms of the importance of remote communication, networking, visualization of how important it is to be able to people to communicate face-to-face, if you will, so that we better understand what is going on rather than just voice. And also the security issues that are involved. It's an important aspect of business that we've seen a lot of issues with respect to whether it's telephones or financial considerations or the other that we need about security. We didn't talk very much about industrial technology, but maybe we'll leave that for another time. But we did talk a little bit today about science technology, that which is involved in space, geology, weather, biology, and physics. So my attempt in these episodes was not to cover in detail every branch of science or applications, personal or materials or medical, but just to give you a hint of the kinds of technology that are involved in our everyday life, not necessarily impacting us directly, but they will in the long term. And we can take advantage of some of these if we better understand what's going on around us and how they might apply. And in many cases, things which are not obvious come about from accident, and some are direct research, and some are applied technology that may have a broader sense of use than those that they originally intended to try and predict. So we just need to keep our eyes open, our ears to the ground, so to speak, and see what it is that's there and how we can better make our lives a better place to be and exist.
Let me ask you, Henry, as we come to the end of the show, I think our episodes that we've done together have been great on ways in which you've informed the listeners of this is the technology that's taking place in these different areas. What advice do you have to leave the listeners with when it comes to embracing technology? Because sometimes, as we've spoken about, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, as I said, okay, the technology in a broad sense is very difficult to appreciate and comprehend because it's so broad. But I think that for those things that we come into contact on a day-by-day basis, if we look on how technology is helping us, and it's important to try to understand it better if you're confused, and try and get some help, either using the internet, the library is a good source of information, or talk to people and see what they know about it. And in many cases, they'll be able to help you understand what's there right in front of you. So there's a number of ways that we should try to utilize to better understand what's going on and also to appreciate.
And how can people contact you to follow up with any questions that they may have as things that we've discussed on shows?
They can either send me an email, henryhalliday@earthlink.net, or they can go to my website, henryhalliday.com, and send me an email message from there.
And do you have any final thoughts you want to leave the listeners with?
Oh, it's been exciting talking about technology. It's always been a part of my life, and no matter how much I think I know, I have to keep going to try to understand what's changing and how it's affecting all the technologies up and down the line.
Brilliant. Well, it's always a pleasure having you on, and we wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to speak again.
Okay, thanks, Lucy. Appreciate your help.
You've been listening to APMG Radio with my special guest, Henry Halliday. This show and many others can be found at allpromediagroup.com. Thank you again. You've been listening to APMG Radio.
All Pro Media Group Radio showcases professionals on a daily basis. Be inspired and listen to experts from around the globe share their accomplishments with you. APMG Radio, success at its finest.